Yesterday, Sayadaw explained on Vipassana jhana from theory and practice. So the Nama-Rupa phenomena arises when there are circumstances. So when certain circumstances meet, these Nama-Rupa arise. And the Nama-Rupa, each and every Nama-Rupa has their own unique characteristic. And also the Nama-Rupa also have common characteristics. Observing on the unique or individual characteristics, Sabhava Lakkhana, and the common characteristic, Samanya Lakkhana, observing on these characteristics are called jhana. So, Nama-Rupa phenomena have their own unique characteristics. So, just as food, every food has its own flavor, own taste. Some food have sweet taste, some have sour taste, some food have a mixture of sweet and sour taste. Some are spicy, hot, some are pungent, some salty, and some bitter. So there are 6 kinds of flavor. So by putting the food in the mouth and by chewing it, one will know the taste. So when one chews the food, the taste dissolves in the mouth and the person comes to know the taste. But one experiences the taste, but one cannot show the flavor or taste to others. But the person experiences the taste himself, herself. So one needs to eat and chew in order to know the taste. So in the same way, just as the food has its own taste, in the same way, the Nama-Rupa phenomena that are arising in the body, relating to each other as cause and effect, these conditioned Nama-Rupa phenomena, each and every one of them has their own characteristics. And these characteristics are not permanent. They arise and pass away. So whatever that arises passes away. So this characteristic of arising and passing away is common to every Nama-Rupa phenomena. So because they dissolve or passes away, they are not included in the list of good things. Because they pass away, they dissolve after arising. So that's why it is called Dukkha Lakkhana, characteristic of impermanence, because they dissolve after arising. So these Nama-Rupa phenomena, they arise due to circumstances. So one cannot control them in a way that let these things happen, let only these things happen, not letting other things happen. So one cannot control in such a way. And there is no person or soul controlling things to happen or controlling things not to happen. So these Nama-Rupa phenomena will definitely arise if there are favorable circumstances. So there is no atta, no soul or self controlling the arising of these phenomena. So there is no atta controlling the nama rupa to arise, and nama rupa themselves they are not atta. So these phenomena arises and passes away. So it's characteristic of suffering, because the arising and passing away are always tormenting. That's why it is suffering, because these arising and passing away are always tormenting. So things do not happen according to one's own wishes. So the unique individual characteristic of the nama rupa, as well as the common characteristic of the nama rupa, observing on these unique and common characteristics is called jhana. So by observing the arising and passing away of these characteristics is called jhana. So by observing these nama rupa, it will be jhana, but at the stage of insight into cause and effect, it is not really jhana yet, but it is the neighboring stage of jhana. So it's called upacara samadhi. So at the stage of insight into cause and effect, it is the neighboring stage of vipassana jhana. By understanding the three characteristics of impermanence, suffering, and non-self, it is vipassana jnana. So coming to understand through observing the nama rupa, the characteristic of impermanence, suffering, non-self is vipassana jnana. So in the term vipassana, vi means in various characteristics of impermanent, suffering, and non-self, which are the characteristics of nama rupa phenomena which arise when there are circumstances. So vi means in various ways of these characteristics of impermanent, suffering, and non-self. And jnana means knowledge. So by observing the nama rupa, one will come to know in various ways of these characteristics of impermanent, suffering, and non-self. And by knowing these characteristics of impermanent, suffering, and non-self, there will be right view. That's why it is also called samadhi. So combining these two words, vipassana and samadhi, mix up the word vipassana samadhi. So it means the knowledge, the right view of understanding the characteristics of impermanent, suffering, and non-self of these nama rupa phenomena which are relating as cause and effect. So there will be vipassana jhana also, and this vipassana jhana also consists of 5 factors: vitakka, aiming or initial application; vichara, sustained application or rubbing of the noting mind onto the object; piti, joy, sukha, happiness, and ekaggata, one-pointedness of mind or concentration. So to make you understand the sabhava lakkhana, unique or individual characteristic, and samanya lakkhana, common characteristics, Sayadaw will explain briefly on Mahabhuta, the 4 elements in the body. So in the body there are 4 basic elements called Paṭhavi, Paṭhavi Dhatu, Tejo Dhatu, Apo Dhatu, and Vayu Dhatu. And the ones who are learning this Buddhist teachings, they are familiar with these 4 elements. Paṭhavi Dhatu is the earth element. So the nature of the Paṭhavi Dhatu, earth element, are hardness, roughness, softness. These are the nature of Paṭhavi Dhatu, earth element. And this Paṭhavi Dhatu supports the other elements. So in the body there are 20 kinds of Paṭhavi Dhatu, which are hard, coarse, or soft and supple. So if you feel the bone in your body, you will feel hardness and roughness. So this hardness and roughness is the nature of Paṭhavi Dhatu, earth element. And the flesh and the nerves, they are soft and supple. Softness, suppleness is also the nature of Paṭhavi Dhatu. And in the body there is soft and supple substance like jelly, and it is also the nature of Paṭhavi Dhatu. And this Paṭhavi Dhatu supports so that other elements will not collapse or break down. So that's why this Paṭhavi Dhatu is supporting the other elements. So just as the ground or the soil is supporting buildings and trees so that these buildings and trees will not collapse. So in the same way, Paṭhavi Dhatu, earth element, supports so that other elements will not collapse. And Apo Dhatu is the water element, and there are 10 kinds. In the body, the oily substance, blood or sweat, they are the things where Apo Dhatu, water element, is prevalent. So the nature of Apo Dhatu is flowing, cohesion, fluidity. These are the nature of Apo Dhatu. And also the cohesion, heaviness manifests in Apo Dhatu. But this Apo Dhatu cannot be experienced itself. So Apo itself cannot be experienced alone. So one will experience this Apo Dhatu in mixture or in together with the other elements. And Tejo Dhatu, the temperature element or the fire element, the nature is warmth, heat, cold, lightness. These are the nature of Tejo Dhatu. And in heat, warmth, in heat there is lightness. In warmth also, it can be light, and also in coldness also there can be lightness. So this heat, cold, lightness, warmth, they are all nature of Tejo Dhatu. And Vayo Dhatu, the wind element, the nature of wind element is stiffness, tension, relaxation, pulling, pushing, movement. These are the nature of Vayo Dhatu. So these four elements are comprised in the body. So these four elements support so that other elements will not collapse. So if you want to feel warmth or cold, you can feel your body and you may feel the warmth or coldness in the body. And also there are stiffness, tension. So these elements are supporting other elements. So these elements have their own unique characteristics as explained above. So these are the unique characteristics of materiality. And also in the mentality, they have their own unique characteristics. For example, mind has the nature or characteristic of cognizing. Phassa, contact, has the nature of touching, coming into contact. Vedana has the characteristic of feeling. So also mentality also have their own unique characteristics. So in order to know the characteristics of the nama rupa, mind and matter, one needs to observe at the moment of arising. So every time the object arises, such as rising, falling, sitting, touching, bending, stretching, and so on, yogi should note them with aiming and effort. By noting them closely with aiming and effort, when the noting mind falls onto stiffness, yogi will come to know stiffness. When the yogi's mind falls onto tension, then the yogi will know tension. If the mind falls onto movement, the yogi will come to know movement. So when aiming becomes skilled, when the person becomes skilled in aiming, then the mind will fall calm and collected. The mind will penetrate through the object. This falling calm and collected on the object, penetrating in the object, is called samadhi, concentration. And coming to know the nature, it is panya, knowledge. So by noting these nama rupa phenomena, which are arising as cause and effect, one will come to know the arising and passing away of these objects, such as rising and falling of the abdomen. So by knowing that these objects arises and passes away, so yogi will come to know the impermanence through his or her practice. Yogi will see through his or her experience that all objects dissolving, new objects arising. So all objects dissolving, new objects arising. So in this way, these objects are arising continuously, one after another. When the yogi comes to understand the impermanence through his or her practice, then she has developed Vipassana jnana, insight knowledge. So by developing Vipassana jnana, insight knowledge, by understanding the impermanence of these objects. At this stage, yogi can bear pains and aches, and the yogi has the courage to do sitting meditation. She is no more afraid to sit. She is no more afraid to do sitting meditation. So sitting meditation becomes his or her friend, and the person is not afraid of pains and aches anymore. But she has the courage to challenge the pain. And also, yogi starts to enjoy noting the pain, and yogi relishes in noting the pain. So at this stage, the pain becomes quite pleasant, and the yogi would even consider the pain as pleasant pain. So in this way, the yogi gains upper hand of the pain, and if the yogi pursues practice, yogi will further develop Vipassana jnana, and his or her jnana will improve. So the jhana that is associated with Vipassana is called Vipassana jhana. So among these two kinds of characteristics, Sabhava Lakkhana, unique or individual characteristic, and Samanya Lakkhana, common characteristic. Among these two, in order to know Sabhava Lakkhana, unique or individual characteristic, one needs to note with label, just as the common usage, as rising, falling, sitting, touching, bending, stretching, and so on. And also, other activities such as opening, closing of the eye, blinking of the eye should also be noted in order to know the true nature, in order to know these characteristics. So just as food has its own flavor, in the same way, these nama-rupa phenomena has their own unique characteristics. So when noting rising and falling of the abdomen, for example, because one is so much used to the form or shape and the manner, as one notes rising and falling, one will first be seeing form or shape of the abdomen, and at times one will only be knowing the manner of movement. As the noting mind is not strong yet, one will be knowing, experiencing together with form and shape of the abdomen and the manner of movement. So at first, when one is noting the rising and falling, shape or form and the manner will still be prominent. And one should note with labels such as rising, falling. So as the yogi gains skill in the practice, his or her noting mind will reach far beyond form, shape, and the manner, and the noting mind will meet with the true nature of the object. So the rising, falling is situated at the abdomen, and this abdomen is made up of mostly of Paṭavi Dhatu, earth element. So when noting rising, falling of the abdomen, at the beginning of the practice, form or shape of the abdomen will manifest. So form or shape is called Sandhana Panyati. It is the form or shape concept. And at times, the noting mind will fall only onto the manner of rising and falling. So this manner of rising and falling is called Akara Panyati. So this manner is the concept of manner. It is manner concept. So these concepts of form or shape and manner, they are not true nature. They are not true characteristics. So at the beginning of the practice, the yogi will first see form or shape, which is only concept. And also when the yogi only sees the manner of movement, the manner of rising and falling, it is also concept. It is not true nature yet. But actually, the true nature, the true characteristic is stiffness, tension, movement, and so on. So one would know this true nature as the yogi becomes skilled in the practice. So when noting rising and falling of the abdomen, what does the yogi come to know? By noting rising, falling, does the yogi come to know form or the shape of the abdomen? Does he/she come to know mode or manner of moving? Or does she come to know the true nature, the true characteristic, such as stiffness, tension, warmth, cold, heat, etc. So in order to know the true nature, the true characteristic of stiffness, tension, warmth, cold, heat, and so on, yogi should note very closely to the object. Yogi should follow the object with aim and effort, so that the whole rising, the whole falling will be noted. So yogi should note very closely from the very beginning of the falling till the end, from the very beginning of the falling till the end. So the yogi should follow all the way through from the very beginning till the end of rising and falling. So at the beginning of the practice, the noting mind may only fall onto the form or shape of the abdomen. Let it be, it doesn't matter. At the beginning of the practice, the noting mind falls on the mode or manner of the movement. So whether the noting mind falls on the form or shape or the manner of movement, don't worry, just keep on noting. It doesn't matter as long as the noting mind doesn't run off from the object of meditation. But as the yogi notes continuously on rising, falling, when the yogi gains Khanika Samadhi, momentary concentration, then the yogi's mind will be falling calm and collected on the object. The noting will become effective, so that the true nature, the true characteristics such as stiffness, tension, warmth, cold, heat will be known. So in order to know the true nature, the true characteristic of the object, one needs to observe at the moment of arising. So when one is paying attention to eating, then when the food gets onto the tongue and chew it, the person will know the taste. So in the same way, when practicing, if one notes with aim and effort, and when the noting is effective, then the yogi will come to know the true nature of the object. So when eating, when one eats, paying attention to eating, then the person will know the taste such as sour or sweet. But if one doesn't pay any attention, even though one swallows one whole morsel, he, she will not know the flavor. So in the same way, when practicing, one should note with aim and effort. By noting with aim and effort, there will be sustained mindfulness. The mind will not run elsewhere, so that he, she will come to know the true nature, such as stiffness, tension, and also he, she will come to know the arising and passing away of the nature. So when experiencing the four great essentials, the Pඨavi, Tejo, Apo, and Vayo, when experiencing these, when among these four great essentials, three could be experienced, and Apo cannot be experienced alone. So among these four great essentials, the four great essential elements, this Apo cannot be experienced alone. So at times, the yogi may experience hardness, heat, cold, warmth, stiffness, tension, movement. So these can be experienced together with the Apo Dhatu. So at times, when noting rising of the abdomen, yogi may experience hard, something congealing hard, like a stone. Hardness is the nature of Pඨavi Dhatu. Congealing, cohesion is the nature of Apo Dhatu. So in the case of experiencing something hard, congealed and solid like a stone, the yogi is experiencing the Pඨavi Dhatu, earth element, which is combining with Apo Dhatu, water element. And at times, the yogi may experience something soft, like the jelly. Softness is the nature of Pඨavi Dhatu. Congealing, solidity is the nature of Apo Dhatu. And at times, the yogi experiences something hot and congealed. Heat is the nature of Tejo Dhatu, and the congealing cohesion is the nature of Apo Dhatu. At times, the yogi may experience a cold, congealed thing. Sometimes the yogi may experience warm, congealed something. So by this way, yogi is experiencing Tejo Dhatu together with Apo Dhatu. So Apo Dhatu has this nature of cohesion, flowing, congealing. So if one experiences stiff and congealed or tense and congealed, then the yogi is experiencing Vayo Dhatu, wind element, together with Apo Dhatu, water element. So as one knows this nature, then one also comes to see that this nature doesn't stay the same, they do not stay the same, but they arise and pass away. So if one sees the arising and the passing away of the nature, one comes to understand impermanence. So before one practices, one takes things as permanent. So having this wrong view of permanence is akusala, unwholesome. But when one practices, when one sees that these things arises and passes away, by knowing the impermanence, the knowledge of impermanence is weakening, dispelling the unwholesome view of permanent. So by this way, with knowledge, with having knowledge of the impermanence, one is said to be obtaining bhavana kusala, the wholesomeness of mental development. So by having this bhavana kusala, knowing them as impermanent, one will not take them as good anymore. So before the practice, when one takes them as permanent, they are taking them as good. But now as the yogi sees the impermanence, the yogi will not take of them as good. Before the practice, one thinks that it is good to sit, it is good to touch, it is good to see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and so on. But when the yogi practices, he/she experiences passing away of these objects after arising. So seeing the impermanence, the yogi does not take things as good anymore. In this way, the wrong view of good, the wrong view believing that things are good will be dispelled. And so in this way, unwholesomeness of this wrong view, taking things as good, will be weakened and dispelled with knowledge. So by understanding these nama rupa, one understands that there is no jiva atta, no self or soul. But when one sees the nature itself, one automatically removes the wrong view of jiva atta, the wrong view of self or soul. So just one consciousness cannot know all three characteristics of impermanence, suffering, or non-self. So some of the time, one may be knowing impermanence. At times, one will see suffering. At times, one will see non-self. So whichever one of these three characteristics one knows, then the person will be knowing the other two automatically. So among these three characteristics, impermanence, suffering, and non-self, by knowing clearly one of the three, one automatically understands the other two. So we means various ways of these characteristics, and Vipassana means knowing or seeing. So in this way, Vipassana means knowing or seeing in various ways of these characteristics. And this knowledge doesn't come from thinking, reflecting, or speculating, but this knowledge comes from one's own experience of practice. So by observing these nama rupa phenomena, which are relating as cause and effect. By observing these Nama Rupa, one comes to understand the impermanent, suffering, and non-self. By understanding the characteristic of impermanent, suffering, and non-self, one makes a profit. How one makes profit? By knowing the impermanent, suffering, and non-self is that knowing the impermanence, one does not take things as permanent anymore, so one is said to be weakening, overcoming the conceit. If one takes things as impermanent, one will have conceit and pride. So by understanding the impermanence, one weakens and removes conceit and pride. When one understands the suffering, then one does not take things as good anymore. If one takes things as good, there will be craving. So by understanding the suffering, one is said to be weakening, removing tasna, craving. And by understanding that things happen in their own accord, one understands non-self. So in this way, wrong view of self will be overcome. So this is the profit one will get by understanding the characteristics of impermanent, suffering, and non-self. One will be overcoming wrong view of permanent, good, and self. And one also weakens the unwholesome states. One also weakens the mana, conceit, tasna, craving, and ditthi, wrong view. So just by understanding the three characteristics of impermanent, suffering, and non-self, one weakens the mana, tasna, and ditthi, conceit, craving, and wrong view, so that these will become weaken, and finally be removed. So if the person pursues practice, if the person continues to practice, his or her knowledge will become stronger and stronger, and by developing strong knowledge, a whole army of mental strength will march onwards. So Sayadaw will explain later in his next Dhamma talk.